The last thing my mother ever said to me was that I was an ugly college dropout before she slammed the door in my face. 5 years later, at my sister's graduation party, her professor asked me, "You know her?" All I could think was, "You have absolutely no idea." My mother's voice still echoes in my mind. "You're nothing but an ugly college dropout. Don't you dare show your face at this family again." Those chilling words were followed by the deafening slam of the front door, the door to the house I grew up in, the home that was now unequivocally closed to me. I stood on the porch, my entire life packed into a single suitcase at my feet, and through the window, I watched my younger sister, Cassandra, laugh freely with our parents. That was 5 agonizing years ago. I was 22, fresh out of their lives, and utterly broken. My name is Athena, and today, I'm 27. For them, I was always the embarrassment, the one who just couldn't measure up. Too plain, too ordinary, too much of a failure to ever truly deserve their love or support. Cassandra? She was their golden child. Beautiful, brilliant, driven, everything I wasn't, everything they wanted. Growing up in Nashville, Tennessee, I learned a harsh truth. Love in my family was a transaction. My parents, both formidable business owners, had a very clear blueprint for their daughters. We were to be beautiful, accomplished, perfect extensions of their status and wealth. Cassandra, with her innate grace, slid into that role seamlessly. I, however, always seemed to be the odd one out. I can pinpoint the exact moment my world started to unravel. It was my 3rd year of college, and I was finally studying what I loved, graphic design. I poured my heart into it, creating art, playing with colors and shapes, watching ideas leap to life on a screen. But my parents, they despised it. They envisioned me in law or business, something suitably prestigious they could flaunt at their endless country club dinners. Graphic design is for people who can't do real work, my father sneered when I told him my major. "You're just wasting our money on this nonsense." My mother was even colder. She used every single conversation as an opportunity to hold Cassandra up as the shining example, already deep into pre-med. "Your sister is going to be a doctor," she'd declare. "What are you going to be? Someone who makes pretty pictures." The constant, relentless criticism chipped away at me. Every phone call from home felt like an interrogation, every visit a lecture about my choices, my appearance, my entire future. They carved it into my soul. I was nothing but a disappointment. When depression and anxiety started to consume me, they simply told me to stop being dramatic. When my grades inevitably plummeted, their response was an immediate threat to cut me off financially. I tried to push through, I really did, but the pressure was crushing. My mental health spiraled. I stopped attending classes, stopped eating, stopped believing I was worth anything at all. Then, on one particularly bleak night, I made the agonizing decision to leave college. It wasn't a choice I wanted, but rather a desperate escape from a situation I couldn't survive. When I finally told my parents, the explosion was instantaneous, violent. My mother screamed, hours of venom about how I'd embarrassed them, thrown my life away, how I was too stupid to grasp the monumental mistake I was making. My father? He simply looked at me with utter disgust, his words cutting deeper than any scream. "You are no longer my daughter." And Cassandra, my perfect sister, stood in the doorway, watching it all unfold with a sickening smirk. She always reveled in my failures. They made her shine brighter. They gave me exactly 1 week to pack my things and vanish. No money, no roof over my head, no family to catch my fall. I was utterly, terrifyingly alone. For months, I bounced from one friend's couch to another, desperately clinging to survival. Waitressing, retail, scrubbing offices clean at night. I took any job I could find. It felt like I'd hit rock bottom, with no hope of ever climbing back out. But then, something shifted inside me during those darkest months. Maybe it was the raw, burning anger. Maybe it was pure desperation. Or maybe, just maybe, it was sheer, unadulterated stubbornness. I looked at the broken girl staring back from the mirror and vowed, I would not let them define me anymore. Their version of me, their narrative of my failure, would not be my truth. Every single dollar I earned, I saved. Every spare moment I had, I spent devouring free online tutorials, teaching myself advanced design software. I started building a portfolio, reaching out to small businesses, offering to design their logos and websites for next to nothing just to gain experience. And slowly, painstakingly slowly, I started to build something of my own. It was never easy. There were nights I went to bed hungry, forced to choose between groceries and internet access. Times when the insidious voice, sounding eerily like my mother, whispered that I was foolish to think I could ever succeed without them. But I kept pushing. I refused to break. And eventually, things began to turn. My designs improved. My clients grew. My rates climbed. I moved from crashing on couches to a cramped studio, then to a real one-bedroom apartment. I transitioned from scrambling freelancer to the proud owner of my own design agency. By the way, if you're finding yourself invested in this wild ride, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. 5 years flew by. 5 years of grinding myself to exhaustion, of proving every single person wrong, of painstakingly becoming a woman I could finally be proud of. I cut off all contact with my family, changed my phone number, even moved across the city. I truly wanted nothing to do with them. And then, one warm spring evening, a message popped up on social media. It was from an old high school friend, and the invite was for Cassandra's graduation party. My sister, the golden child, was finally finishing her medical degree, and my parents, of course, were throwing a lavish celebration at an upscale downtown venue. The invitation felt like a cruel trap. Why on earth would they want me there, after everything? But as I stared at the screen, something deep within me shifted. A spark. Maybe, just maybe it was time to face them. Not as the shattered, desperate girl they discarded, but as the powerful, resilient woman I had forged myself into. I agonized over the decision for a week. A huge part of me screamed to ignore it, to keep them firmly in my past. I had built a magnificent life without their help, without their approval. Why reopen old wounds? But another part, a fierce, undeniable part, yearned for them to see it. To see that I hadn't just survived, I had thrived. The party was set for Saturday, at one of Nashville's most exclusive venues. Of course, my parents spared no expense when it came to optics. They lived for showing off, for parading their perfect family and impeccable success to their elite social circle. I made my decision. I would go. Not for their approval. Not for a tearful reunion. I want to look them squarely in the eye, as an equal, and let them see precisely what they had so carelessly thrown away. The days leading up to the party were unsettling. My mind was a whirlwind of memories I'd long buried, resurfacing with vivid, painful clarity. I remembered being 8, beaming with pride as I showed my parents a drawing from school. My teacher had raved about it, displayed it prominently, told me I had genuine talent. My mother? She barely spared it a glance, just a dismissive, go do your homework. My father never even looked up from his newspaper. I remembered 13, overhearing my mother on the phone with her sister, complaining about how I wasn't developing as quickly as Cassandra, how I was destined to be the plain daughter, and that she just hoped I'd be smart enough to make up for my lack of looks. I remembered 16, rushing home buzzing with excitement after winning my first design competition, only for my parents to brush it off, because of course Cassandra had made the honor roll again. Every single memory screamed the same message. I wasn't enough. I would never be enough. Not for them. But now, sitting in my beautiful apartment, paid for by my own hands, surrounded by the success I'd built from absolute nothing, a powerful realization hit me. Their opinion? It didn't matter. Not one bit. I had proven myself to the only person who truly counted. Myself. The evening of the party finally arrived. I spent hours getting ready, not to impress anyone, but to stand tall in my own confidence. I chose a simple, elegant black dress I'd saved for, meticulously applied my makeup, styled my hair. When I met my own gaze in the mirror, I saw someone strong, someone who had survived. The venue was exactly as I'd imagined, even more extravagant. Crystal chandeliers dripped from the ceiling. Pristine white flowers adorned every surface. A string quartet played softly in a corner. Servers, in crisp uniforms, glided through the crowd with champagne and appetizers. It was the epitome of the over-the-top display my parents adored. I arrived fashionably late, granting myself a few precious moments to observe before I was seen. The room teemed with people, some vaguely familiar faces from my childhood, distant relatives, family friends, my parents' business associates. Everyone was impeccably dressed, all smiles and polite chatter, all there to toast Cassandra. My sister, resplendent in a stunning white dress, looked every inch the successful medical school graduate, laughing, her hand casually resting on the arm of a handsome man I didn't recognize, likely her latest conquest. My parents, radiating smug pride, flanked her on either side. A familiar, agonizing tightness constricted my chest. That was supposed to be me. I was supposed to be the one they beamed over. But I had veered from their rigid path, and they'd cast me aside like trash. I took a steadying breath, then stepped fully into the room. A few people glanced my way, but their eyes just slid right over me. 5 years had sculpted me. I was leaner, more polished, and I carried myself with an entirely new kind of confidence. The terrified, depressed college dropout was long gone. In her place stood a woman who had learned not just to survive, but to command. I headed to the bar, ordering a glass of wine. As I waited, a voice from my past cut through the noise. "Athena, is that really you?" I turned. Professor Howard, one of my favorite college teachers from the arts department. One of the only people who had ever genuinely encouraged my design work before I'd vanished. He looked older, grayer, but his kind eyes were exactly as I remembered. "Professor Howard," I exclaimed, genuinely shocked to see him. "What are you doing here?" "I teach at the medical school now," he explained, a gentle smile on his face. "Cassandra was one of my students. Brilliant girl, very driven." He paused, his gaze thoughtful. "I heard you left school. I always wondered what happened to you, Athena. You had such undeniable talent." His words struck me with an unexpected force. Here was a man who had seen something in me, who had believed, and I had simply vanished. "I had some personal issues," I said carefully, "but I'm doing really well now. I own my own design agency." His face brightened instantly. "Really? That's wonderful. I always knew you had it in you. Your work was exceptional, even back then." We chatted for a few more minutes, effortlessly catching up on the years. He seemed truly, genuinely happy for my success, a stark contrast to almost everyone else in this room. As our conversation wound down, Professor Howard excused himself. I watched him go, feeling a warmth from his kindness, yet an acute sense of isolation in this sea of faces that were supposed to be my family, my friends. I moved through the party like a phantom. People looked, but their eyes just slid right over me. 5 years was a long time, apparently. At 22, I was a broken girl. Now, at 27, I was polished, confident, entirely remade. They simply didn't see the connection. I drifted towards the dessert table when my mother's voice, sickeningly sweet, cut through the din. She was holding court with a cluster of women, all in designer clothes, all with the same practiced, brittle smiles. "We're just so proud of Cassandra," she purred. Medical school was challenging, but she never gave up. She's always been so determined, so focused, unlike some people. The last 3 words, delivered with a pointed sweetness, were clearly meant for me, even unspoken. A hot, sharp fury flared in my chest. "Yes, we're truly very fortunate," my father chimed in, joining the performance. "Both of our daughters have done so well. Cassandra is going to be a doctor, and our eldest, she's very successful in business." I froze. My blood ran cold. What was he talking about? They had disowned me. They had told me I was nothing. And now, they were shamelessly lying to their friends, pretending everything was perfectly fine, pretending they were proud. One of the women, oblivious, asked, "Oh, I didn't know you had another daughter. Where is she? I'd love to meet her." My mother's smile visibly strained. "She couldn't make it tonight. We're commitments, you know how it is." The lie was so casual, so practiced, it made me wonder how long they'd been spinning this elaborate fiction. How many times had they painted me into their perfect family portrait, while in reality, they'd thrown me out like yesterday's garbage. I wanted to march right over there, right then, and scream the truth. Expose them. Announce to every single person in that room that I was the daughter they were lying about, the one they'd cut off, abandoned. That their perfect family was nothing but a fragile facade. But something held me back. Maybe it was a flicker of self-preservation, a strategic instinct. Or maybe I just wanted to see precisely how far their lies would stretch before I shattered their illusion. I moved through the room, a silent observer, piecing together the meticulously crafted narrative my parents had woven. It became sickeningly clear. They told everyone I was working abroad, too swamped with my spectacularly successful career to attend mundane family events, always sending my love, but never present. An elaborate fiction where I was still their accomplished daughter, conveniently and indefinitely absent. The realization twisted my stomach into knots. They wanted all the credit for raising two successful daughters, without having to deal with the messy reality of one of them. They wanted to maintain their sparkling image, without ever acknowledging that they had brutally severed ties with their own child. As I was processing this fresh wave of disgust, Cassandra walked right past me. She was heading toward a cluster of young people, presumably her medical school friends. Her eyes flickered over my face for a split second, completely devoid of recognition, before she walked on. My own sister, the person I'd grown up with, shared secrets with, fought and laughed with. I was utterly invisible to her. I followed, keeping a safe distance, morbidly curious to hear what she'd say. Her friends were gushing congratulations, swapping medical school war stories, excitedly discussing their future careers. Cassandra was beaming, soaking up every drop of adulation. "Your family must be so proud," one friend offered. Cassandra laughed, a bright, carefree sound. "Oh, they are. My parents have always been incredibly supportive. They always push me to be my best." Another friend inquired, "Do you have siblings?" Cassandra's voice became carefully neutral. "I have an older sister, but we're not close. She made some bad choices a few years ago, and we don't really talk anymore." Bad choices. That's how she summed up my complete mental breakdown, my crushing depression, my fight for bare survival. Bad choices? That's sad. Her friend murmured sympathetically. Cassandra just shrugged, a dismissive flick of her wrist. Some people just can't handle the pressure. My parents did everything they could for her, but she just threw it all away. Dropped out of college, basically disappeared. We have no idea what she's doing now. The casual, almost flippant cruelty of her words stung far more than I'd anticipated. She spoke of me like a forgotten stranger, my profound suffering reduced to meaningless bad choices, as if the years of emotional abuse from our parents had been entirely my fault. Every fiber of my being screamed to confront her, right then, right there, to tell her precisely what I'd built in those 5 years, to shove my success in her face and watch her realize how monumentally wrong she was about me. But I held back. The night was young. There would be time for revelations later. I moved away from Cassandra's smug circle and found a quieter corner. Professor Howard reappeared, this time with a distinguished, middle-aged man in an expensive suit. "Athena," Professor Howard greeted me warmly. "I want you to meet someone. This is Dr. Gregory, the dean of the medical school. I was just telling him about your design agency." Dr. Gregory extended a hand, and I shook it. "Pleasure to meet you. Professor Howard speaks very highly of your work." "Thank you," I managed, utterly surprised by the professor's quiet advocacy. "Actually," Dr. Gregory continued, his eyes thoughtful, "we've been looking for someone to redesign our medical school's website and branding materials. Our current design is quite outdated. Would you be interested in discussing a potential contract?" My heart leaped into my throat. This was huge. A major opportunity, the kind of client that could propel my agency to an entirely new level. And it was happening right here at my sister's party, while my family was busy pretending I didn't even exist. "I would be very interested," I replied, forcing my voice to remain professional despite my wildly racing pulse. We exchanged contact information, and Dr. Gregory promised to reach out the following week for a formal meeting. As he turned to leave, Professor Howard offered me a gentle smile. "Opportunities," he murmured, often arrive when we least expect them. I nodded, my mind reeling. This night had just taken a seriously unexpected turn, and I had a gut feeling things were about to get very interesting. After Dr. Gregory departed, I excused myself from Professor Howard and escaped to the terrace. I needed air. I needed space to breathe, to process the whirlwind. The cool night breeze was a balm against my flushed skin. The terrace offered a sweeping view of downtown Nashville, the city lights twinkling like fallen stars. I leaned against the railing, closing my eyes, trying to quell the storm raging inside me. Anger, satisfaction, confusion, vindication, all swirling together until I couldn't distinguish one from the other. Footsteps behind me. I turned to see a woman I didn't recognize, perhaps in her 50s, with perfectly coiffed gray hair and an elegant blue dress. She smiled warmly. "Needed a break from the crowd?" she asked, joining me at the railing. "Something like that," I replied, my voice a little rough. "I'm Helen," she introduced herself. "I'm a colleague of Cassandra's father. We've worked together for years." "My father's colleague." I kept my expression carefully neutral. "You look so familiar," Helen mused, openly studying my face. "Have we met before?" "I don't think so," I replied carefully. She tilted her head, still scrutinizing me. "No, I'm certain I've seen you somewhere. Perhaps in photos." Then her eyes widened slightly. "Oh my goodness, are you Athena?" My stomach plummeted. "So, someone did recognize me." "Yes," I said quietly. Helen's face lit up with genuine warmth. "I've heard so much about you. Your parents mentioned you're doing so well in business. They said you were working overseas, but I'm so glad you could make it tonight. Cassandra must be thrilled to have her sister here." The depth of my parents' deception was even more intricate than I'd imagined. I didn't correct Helen. I simply offered a faint smile and let her continue. "Your father showed me some photos of your work last month," Helen chirped. "Beautiful designs. He was so proud. He keeps a portfolio of your projects right there in his office." This was too much. My father kept a portfolio of my work? The very man who'd branded my career choice worthless, who had disowned me for pursuing it. "That's surprising," I said, unable to completely mask the bitter edge in my voice. Helen, oblivious, prattled on. "Oh, he talks about you all the time. Both his daughters are so accomplished. You must have such wonderful parents to have raised such successful children." I felt utterly sick. They were claiming credit for my success, a success I'd carved out entirely without them, a life I'd built from the ashes of their abandonment. They were leveraging my accomplishments to bolster their own reputation, all while maintaining the lie that I was simply too busy to grace them with my presence. "Excuse me," I mumbled abruptly. "I need to find a restroom." I left Helen mid-sentence on the terrace and stumbled back inside, my hands trembling with white-hot rage. I had to confront them. I had to expose their lies, right here, right now, in front of all their sycophantic friends and colleagues. Everyone needed to know the truth. But as I scanned the room, my parents basking in the admiration of their circle, Cassandra glowing under the spotlight, the flawless tableau they'd so carefully constructed, a cold, hard truth hit me. A public confrontation would only make me look bitter, petty, unstable. They would easily spin it, paint me as the jealous, problem child they always claimed I was. I needed to be smarter. I needed proof. I needed a way to expose them that couldn't simply be brushed aside or explained away. I pulled out my phone, started recording voice memos, documenting every sickening piece of evidence. The lies people were telling me about my parents' pride, the elaborate fiction my family had woven to maintain their perfect image. As I recorded, I saw Cassandra slip away from her group, heading down a hallway towards the private rooms. I followed, careful to keep my distance. She entered one of the smaller conference rooms. I waited a moment, then nudged the door open just a crack. Cassandra stood with her back to me, phone to her ear. "I know, Mom," she was saying. "I'm handling it. No one's asked about her specifically. Everyone believes the story about her working overseas." She paused, listening. "What if she shows up? Mom, she doesn't know about the party. We didn't invite her. Even if she did find out somehow, she wouldn't have the guts to come back after 5 years." My heart hammered against my ribs. They were actively conspiring to keep me away. This wasn't just casual lying. They had deliberately planned my exclusion, then fabricated my absence. The trust fund, Cassandra continued, her voice lower. Yes, I spoke to the lawyer last week. Since she's been out of contact for so long, and there's documentation of her dropping out and cutting ties, we should be able to claim her portion was forfeited. It'll take some time, but he's confident we can make it work. The words hit me like a physical blow. My grandmother had set up trust funds for both of us before she died. I hadn't thought about it in years, consumed by the sheer fight for survival. But clearly my family had. They weren't just taking credit for my success. They were actively plotting to steal money that was rightfully mine. Cassandra chuckled at something my mother said. Don't worry. She made her choice when she dropped out. She chose to throw her life away. That money is better off with someone who actually did something with their education. Someone who made you proud. Her words echoed in my skull. She chose to throw her life away. As if my mental breakdown had been a choice. As if their years of emotional abuse had nothing to do with it. As if I had wanted to struggle, to suffer, to fight for every scrap of stability. I backed away from the door, careful not to make sound. My hands shook so violently I could barely hold my phone. But I had it. The entire conversation. I had proof. Proof of their lies, their grotesque manipulation, their outright plan to steal from me. I stumbled back to the main hall in a daze. Everything I thought I understood about this night had violently shifted. This wasn't just about them being embarrassed by their ugly college dropout daughter. This was about money. This was about them rewriting history, claiming my inheritance, and still parading their perfect image, all at once. I needed to talk to someone. I needed advice, and fast. I pulled out my phone and texted my business partner, Jordan. He was the only person who knew the full, ugly story of my past. My message was blunt. Need legal help. Family trying to steal inheritance. Have recording of admission. What do I do? His reply came almost instantly. Do not confront them yet. Leave the party. Meet me at the office tomorrow morning. Bring everything. We'll handle this properly. He was right. I needed to be strategic. But leaving now felt utterly impossible. I had come here to face them, and I would not run away again. I steadied myself, pushing past the shock, and walked back into the pulsating heart of the party. The evening was reaching its crescendo. My father was preparing to give a speech, and guests were already gathering around a small stage. I positioned myself at the edge of the crowd, close enough to see everything, yet hoping to remain unnoticed. My father, microphone in hand, stepped onto the stage, flashing his most practiced, charming smile. Good evening, everyone, he boomed. Thank you all for coming to celebrate this momentous occasion. Tonight, we honor my daughter, Cassandra, who has worked tirelessly to achieve her dream of becoming a doctor. The crowd erupted in applause. Cassandra, radiant, stood beside my mother. As a father, my dad continued, his voice dripping with feigned emotion. There's nothing more rewarding than watching your children succeed. My wife and I have been blessed with two remarkable daughters, both intelligent, both driven, both determined to make their mark on the world. My jaw clenched so tight it ached. He was doing it again, pretending he was proud of me, pretending we were some idyllic, united family. Cassandra has always been focused and dedicated, he gushed. And tonight, as she celebrates her graduation from one of the finest medical schools in the country, we couldn't be prouder. More applause. I spotted Professor Howard in the crowd, a pleasant expression on his face, Dr. Gregory nodding nearby. Our other daughter, Athena, couldn't be here tonight due to work commitments overseas, my father continued, seamlessly. But she sends her love and congratulations to her sister. Athena has built a successful design business and travels extensively for work. We're proud of both our girls and the incredible women they've become. The sheer audacity, the effortless conviction with which he spun these blatant falsehoods was staggering. For a fleeting second, I almost believed in myself. Almost. Family is everything, my father concluded, his voice swelling. And tonight, we celebrate not just Cassandra's achievement, but the strength of family bonds that support us through life's challenges. To Cassandra! To Cassandra! The crowd echoed, raising their glasses. Mine remained firmly at my side. I stood there, a ghost amidst the charade, watching my father descend from the stage to embrace my sister, watching my mother dab away happy tears, watching everyone celebrate this perfectly orchestrated family moment, a moment built entirely on a foundation of cruel, self-serving lies. Professor Howard navigated through the thinning crowd and found himself near me once more. "Lovely speech," he commented, his brow furrowed slightly. "Though I'm surprised your sister couldn't make it. I didn't even know you had a sibling until tonight." I looked at him intently. He seemed genuinely confused, not trying to trick me. "That's interesting," I said slowly, a controlled tremor in my voice. "Because I am his other daughter." Professor Howard's eyes widened. He looked from me to my father, then back to me, a flicker of disbelief. I don't understand. You just said you were overseas." He lied. I stated plainly. "I'm right here. I've been here all evening, and no one in my family has recognized me because they haven't seen me in 5 years. Not since they disowned me for dropping out of college." The professor stared, visibly processing, his mind racing to connect the disjointed pieces of information. "But he just said he was proud of you. He said you have a successful business." "I do have a successful business," I clarified, "but they have no idea what I've been doing since they kicked me out. They've been making up stories about me to save face with their friends." Professor Howard looked genuinely shocked, his kind face etched with disbelief. "That's unconscionable. Why would they do that?" "Because they care more about their reputation," I said, the words bitter, raw, but devastatingly true, than they do about me. Before Professor Howard could even respond, Dr. Gregory joined us, his keen eyes sensing the sudden shift in atmosphere. "Everything all right here?" he asked, a hint of concern in his voice. Professor Howard glanced at me, silently offering me the choice to reveal the truth. I made a split-second decision. "Dr. Gregory," I began, my voice steadying, "I need to be completely honest with you about something before we even consider moving forward with any business discussions." He looked intrigued. "Go ahead." "My full name is Athena. My last name is the same as Cassandra's, because she is my sister. I'm the daughter my father just mentioned in his speech. The one he claimed was overseas." Dr. Gregory's expression morphed from friendly interest to outright confusion. I don't follow. You're here. You're not overseas." "Exactly," I affirmed. "My father lied. He's been lying to everyone here about me. The truth is, my parents disowned me 5 years ago when I dropped out of college due to severe mental health issues. They cut me off completely, told me never to contact them again, and essentially pretended I didn't exist. Until recently, that is, apparently, they decided it was more convenient to start telling people I was successful and busy working overseas. They're using my real success they know absolutely nothing about, to make themselves look like good parents." Dr. Gregory looked from me to the stage where my father was still soaking in congratulations, then back to my face. "This is a serious accusation," he said slowly. "It's not an accusation," I countered, pulling out my phone. "It's the truth. I have a recording of my sister on the phone with my mother from earlier tonight. In it, they discuss how relieved they are that I didn't find out about this party and show up. They also discuss plans to steal my inheritance, claiming I forfeited it by dropping out and losing contact." Professor Howard's face had gone utterly pale. "Athena, this is terrible. I had no idea you'd been through such an ordeal." "Most people don't," I replied, my voice hard, "because I've been focused on rebuilding my life, not airing my family's dirty laundry. But I came here tonight to face them, to stand before them as someone who succeeded despite them, not because of them. What I didn't expect was to uncover years of lies and a deliberate plot to steal money that is rightfully mine." Dr. Gregory remained silent for a long moment, his gaze unwavering as he studied my face. "Can you prove you are who you say you are?" I pulled out my driver's license, my name, birth date, my Nashville address. Everything matched. "I believe you," he said finally, his voice grim, "and I'm appalled by what you've shared. However, I need to think carefully about how to proceed with our business discussions. This puts me in an awkward position, Your father is a respected colleague, and I've known your family for years. My heart sank. Of course, their reputation would always trump my truth. It always had. But Professor Howard interjected, his voice firm with respect. Dr. Gregory, Athena's family situation has absolutely nothing to do with her professional capabilities. I taught her in college before she left. Her work was exceptional even then, and from what she's told me, she's only improved since. Punishing her professionally because her family is dysfunctional would be grossly unfair. Dr. Gregory considered this, then nodded slowly. You're right. Of course, personal matters shouldn't affect professional opportunities. Athena, I'll be in touch next week as planned. What your family has done is between you and them. Your work speaks for itself. Relief washed over me, but it was fleeting. I saw my mother heading straight for us, her face plastered with a welcoming smile. She was bringing someone with her, no doubt to introduce to the dean. Dean Gregory, my mother chirped, drawing closer. I wanted to introduce you to some of our closest family friends. She stopped dead when her eyes finally landed on me. For a split second, I saw a flicker of recognition, then sheer confusion, quickly followed by outright panic. Athena, she whispered, the color draining from her face. Hello, Mother, I said calmly, my voice dangerously even. Lovely party, though I couldn't help but notice I wasn't invited. My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Her eyes darted frantically between Dr. Gregory, Professor Howard, and me, desperately trying to salvage her crumbling facade. What are you doing here? She finally managed, her voice tight with barely suppressed fury. I was invited by a friend, I replied, a chilling smile touching my lips. Though I've been here for over an hour now, and this is the first time anyone in my family has recognized me. Interesting, isn't it? My mother's eyes darted around nervously. People nearby were definitely starting to notice the tension. We should discuss this privately, she hissed, reaching for my arm. I recoiled, avoiding her touch. Why? You've been discussing me publicly all evening, telling everyone how proud you are of me, how successful I am, how I'm overseas working on my thriving business. Might as well keep it public now, don't you think? You don't understand, my mother spat, her pleasant veneer shattering completely. We were trying to protect the family. Protect the family? I repeated, my voice rising just enough for several heads to turn. Is that what you call disowning your daughter? Abandoning her when she was struggling with her mental health? Kicking her out with nowhere to go? You made your choice when you dropped out, my mother said defensively, her chin jutting out. You threw away everything we gave you. Everything you gave me. I felt a surge of pure, unadulterated anger. You gave me criticism, comparison, and conditional love. And when I couldn't handle the pressure anymore, you threw me away like I was nothing. My father, drawn by the rising commotion, appeared beside my mother. When he saw me, his face mirrored her exact progression. Recognition, then confusion, quickly followed by stark panic. Athena, he said, his voice carefully modulated, attempting to project calm. This isn't the time or place for this discussion. Really, I shot back, a chilling smile on my face. Because you seem to have plenty to say about me in your speech, didn't you? All those elaborate lies about how proud you are about my successful overseas business, about family bonds and support. Shall we tell everyone the truth, Dad? Shall we tell them you haven't spoken to me in 5 years? That you actually told me I was no longer your daughter? People were absolutely watching now. The buzzing conversations around us died down completely as guests turned to stare. I saw Cassandra pushing through the crowd, her face pale with alarm. Athena, please, my father pleaded, desperately trying to maintain his composure. You're making a scene. I'm making a scene? I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. You've been constructing an entire fictional life for me, using my actual success, you know, absolutely nothing about, to make yourselves look like supportive parents. And now you're upset that I'm calling you out on it. Cassandra finally reached us, her eyes wide with shock. What's going on? Your sister decided to show up uninvited and create drama at your graduation party. My mother spat, her voice dripping venom. just like her to try and ruin your special day. Uninvited, I turned my gaze directly to Cassandra. Funny thing about that, I overheard your phone conversation earlier. The one where you told Mom how relieved you were that I didn't know about the party and wouldn't show up. The one where you discussed stealing my inheritance. Cassandra's face went utterly white. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered. I pulled out my phone. I recorded it. Would you like me to play it for everyone here? Let them hear you and Mom plotting to claim I forfeited my trust fund? Let them hear you laugh about how I threw my life away? You're insane, Cassandra hissed, her voice laced with fear. You always were unstable and dramatic. I was struggling. I corrected her coldly, my voice cutting through the tension. I was depressed and anxious and desperate for help. And instead of supporting me, you mocked me. All of you did. You made me feel utterly worthless until I believed it myself. Professor Howard cleared his throat, his voice cutting through the stunned silence. I think everyone here needs to hear something. I taught Athena in college. She was one of the most talented students I've ever had. When she left school, I was devastated because I knew she possessed incredible potential. But I also knew she was struggling with something far deeper than just academic stress. He looked directly at my parents, his gaze unwavering. A truly good family would have helped her through that struggle. Instead, for what I'm hearing tonight, you abandoned her when she needed you most. And now, you're attempting to claim credit for her success, and even worse, trying to steal her inheritance. That's not family. That's exploitation. My father's face had turned a furious crimson, a mix of anger and mortified embarrassment. You have no right to judge our family decisions. You don't know the full story. Then enlighten us, Dr. Gregory said quietly, his voice carrying surprising weight. Everyone turned to look at him. I'd very much like to hear your version of events. Because right now, what I'm hearing paints a very troubling picture indeed. The crowd around us had swelled, a ripple of whispers passing through. Phones were being discreetly raised, some people even recording. My parents' meticulously crafted image was crumbling in real time, and there was absolutely nothing they could do to stop it. My mother tried one last, desperate attempt to salvage her carefully constructed reality. Athena has always been troubled, she began, her voice quivering. We tried everything to help her, but she refused our support. When she dropped out, we were devastated. We gave her space, hoping she'd come back to us, but she just disappeared. We've been searching for her for years. That's a lie, I stated, my voice firm and unwavering. You told me never to contact you again. You changed your phone numbers. You made it crystal clear I was dead to you. I didn't disappear. You erased me. And the only reason you're upset now is because I showed up and shattered the pretty little story you've been telling everyone. Just then, Jordan, my business partner, materialized at my elbow. I hadn't even seen him arrive, but the sight of his familiar, reassuring face flooded me with relief. He must have seen my location from my earlier text and decided to come. Everything okay here? Jordan asked, his tone leaving no doubt he knew it was anything but. Jordan, I said gratefully. These are my parents. Parents, this is Jordan, my business partner. We run Athena Design Agency together. I turned back to my father, a challenge in my eyes. Perhaps you'd like to see the portfolio Dad supposedly keeps in his office? Except you can't, can you? Because he doesn't actually have one. Because he has no idea what I've been doing for the past 5 years. Jordan pulled out his tablet, opening our agency's website. Athena Design Agency, he announced, turning the screen so everyone nearby could see. Founded 3 years ago, currently employs 15 people. Annual revenue last year was just over $2 million, including several Fortune 500 companies. He swiped through the portfolio, showcasing project after project, sleek website designs, powerful brand identities, innovative marketing campaigns. All my work, all created without a single cent or ounce of support from my family. This, Jordan continued, his voice calm but utterly cutting, is what Athena built after you threw her out. She started with absolutely nothing. She slept on couches. She worked 3 grueling jobs while teaching herself advanced design skills. She saved every single penny until she could afford her own apartment, then freelanced until she had enough clients to launch her own agency. She did all of this completely alone, and she's been incredibly successful. My mother stared at the tablet screen, her face unreadable, a mask of shock. My father's jaw was clenched so tight I thought it might crack. Cassandra looked as if she'd been physically slapped. $2 million, my father finally uttered, and even through his shock, I heard the undeniable tremor of greed in his voice. That's revenue, not profit, Jordan clarified, but yes, the business is quite successful. Athena is one of the most sought-after designers in Nashville, which makes it particularly galling that you've been taking credit for her success while simultaneously trying to steal her inheritance. We weren't stealing, my mother protested weakly, her voice thin. We were simply claiming what was rightfully ours after she abandoned the family. I have a recording that says otherwise. I reminded her, my gaze fixed on Cassandra. You were very clear on the phone about the plan to claim I forfeited my trust fund. I'm sure a judge would be very interested to hear it. Professor Howard spoke up once more, his voice echoing with moral authority. I think what's most disturbing here is the pattern of behavior. You didn't just kick Athena out when she was vulnerable. You've spent 5 years lying about her, using her success to bolster your own reputation, and now you're attempting to steal from her. This isn't a misunderstanding or a family disagreement. This is systematic abuse and fraud. Several people in the crowd nodded, murmuring agreements. I saw some of my parents' closest friends looking at them with expressions ranging from utter confusion to open disgust. Their carefully constructed image was utterly falling apart. Dr. Gregory addressed my parents directly, his voice quiet but firm. I've known your family for several years. I've always respected you as colleagues and friends, but what I'm hearing tonight is deeply troubling. If even half of what your daughter says is true, you've behaved abominably. It's all true, I said firmly, my voice ringing with certainty. Every single word. And I can prove it. I have documentation of them cutting me off. I have the recording of Cassandra discussing the trust fund. I have witnesses who can testify to my mental state when they abandoned me. I have 5 years of building a life completely separate from them, with no support, no contact whatsoever. My father made one last, desperate attempt to regain control. Athena, you're being vindictive. Yes, we made mistakes. Yes, things were said in anger. But we're still your family. We can work through this privately. Now you want to be private? I asked, incredulous, my voice rising. After you publicly lied about me all evening? After you gave that incredibly touching speech about family bonds and being proud of both your daughters? You don't get to choose when to be public and when to be private based on what's convenient for you. Jordan leaned close, whispering, "The lawyer is here. I called him after you texted. He's waiting outside." I nodded, then turned back to my parents, my gaze unwavering. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow morning, you're going to meet with my lawyer. You're going to provide complete documentation of the trust fund my grandmother left me. You're going to sign papers stating you have no claim to that money and will not attempt to interfere with my access to it. And you're going to do it quickly and quietly. And if we refuse, my father challenged, his voice strained. Then, I said, a chilling calm descending upon me, I go to every single person here tonight and tell them the full, unvarnished story. I play them the recording of Cassandra. I provide them with documentation of everything you've done. I make sure everyone in your social circle, everyone you do business with, everyone who thinks you're upstanding citizens knows exactly what kind of people you really are. I'll destroy the reputation you care about so much. My mother's face had cycled from pale white to angry red. You wouldn't dare, she gasped. Try me, I said, my voice cold as ice. I have nothing to lose. You already took everything from me once. I rebuilt my entire life without you. I don't need your money or your approval, but I'll be damned if I let you steal from me and then parade around pretending to be proud parents while doing it. Cassandra finally found her voice, a weak, reedy sound. This is insane. You show up here after 5 years and threaten us. I didn't threaten you. I corrected her, my eyes piercing. I offered you a choice. Sign over what's rightfully mine or face the full consequences of your actions. It's really quite simple. Jordan checked his watch, a subtle signal. The lawyer is waiting. Athena, we should go. Let them think about their options overnight. I looked at my family one last time. My mother was openly weeping now, real tears streaming down her face, finally unchecked. My father looked absolutely furious, yet utterly trapped. Cassandra was simply stunned, her perfect graduation party shattered into a public spectacle. Congratulations on your graduation, Cassandra, I said, my voice devoid of warmth. I hope it was everything you dreamed of. Then, I turned and walked toward the exit, Jordan a silent, supportive presence beside me, leaving my family to stand amidst their horrified, gossiping guests. Our lawyer, Marcus, was waiting in the lobby as promised. He was in his 40s, sharp-eyed and impeccably professional. Jordan had worked with him on several business contracts and trusted him implicitly. Athena, Marcus greeted me with a firm, reassuring handshake. Jordan filled me in on the basics. This is quite a situation. That's one way to put it, I replied, still trembling from the confrontation. We moved to a quieter corner of the lobby, where Marcus pulled out a legal pad and began scribbling notes. I recounted everything. The brutal disownment 5 years ago, the insidious lies my family had been spreading, the chilling phone conversation I'd overheard about the trust fund, and the recording I'd captured. Do you have documentation of the trust fund? Marcus asked, his gaze piercing. I have copies of the original documents my grandmother's lawyer sent me years ago, I said. I never accessed the money because I wanted to prove I could make it on my own, but I kept all the paperwork. Marcus nodded approvingly. Good. That'll help. And you have this recording? I played it for him. Cassandra's voice, cold and calculating, came through clearly, discussing with my mother how they planned to claim I'd forfeited the trust fund due to dropping out and losing contact. Marcus listened intently, his pen flying across the page. When it finished, he looked up, his expression grim. This is excellent evidence of intent to defraud. Combined with their public lies tonight and witness testimony about their treatment of you, we have a very strong case. What happens now? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Now, we move quickly, Marcus stated. Tomorrow morning, I'll send a formal letter to your parents, demanding a meeting. I'll outline everything we know and what we're prepared to do if they don't cooperate. Given how important their reputation clearly is to them, and considering several respected people witnessed tonight's confrontation, I believe they'll agree to our terms. He continued, based on what you've told me, your grandmothers will have no conditions about education or contact with family. The money is yours, regardless of whether you graduated college or stayed in touch with your parents. Any attempt to claim otherwise is fraud. They know this, which is why they were planning to do it quietly, rather than through proper legal channels. A wave of profound relief washed over me. So, I can actually get the money? You can, and you will, Marcus confirmed. But, Athena, I need to ask, what do you want beyond the money? Do you want to pursue criminal charges for the attempted fraud? Do you want to sue for emotional damages? Do you want to go public with their treatment of you? I considered this carefully. A fiery part of me wanted to burn their lives to the ground, just as they had tried to burn mine. But a deeper, calmer part simply wanted to be free of them completely. I want my money, I said finally. I want them to sign legal documents stating they have no claim to it and will never contact me again. And I want them to stop lying about me. They don't get to use my success to make themselves look good anymore. Marcus nodded. That's reasonable and achievable. I'll draw up the documents tonight and have them ready for tomorrow's meeting. Jordan placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. You did good in there. I know that couldn't have been easy. It was terrifying, I admitted, my voice catching, but also necessary. I've been running from them for 5 years. Tonight, I finally stopped running. We spent another 30 minutes with Marcus, going over every detail and refining our strategy. By the time we finished, it was nearly 10 o'clock. The party was probably winding down now. I wondered, darkly, what my family was telling their remaining guests. As if reading my mind, Jordan's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, then showed it to me. It was a text from Professor Howard. Just wanted you to know that several people came up to me after you left asking about your agency. I gave them your contact information. I think tonight might end up being good for business. Ironically enough, I had a laugh. My family's desperate attempt to maintain their perfect image had backfired spectacularly. Not only had I exposed their lies, but I'd also potentially gained new clients in the process. "Come on," Jordan said, sensing my exhaustion. "Let's get you home. You've had enough drama for one night." He drove me back to my apartment, a comfortable one-bedroom in a nice neighborhood, a sanctuary I'd worked so incredibly hard to afford. As I unlocked the door and stepped inside, the familiar space felt like a warm embrace. "Thank you for coming tonight," I said to Jordan, my voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what I would have done without you there." "That's what partners are for," he said with a smile. "Besides, I wouldn't have missed seeing you take down your terrible family for anything." It was epic. After Jordan left, I changed into comfortable clothes and made myself a cup of tea. I sank onto my couch, gazing around at the life I'd meticulously built. Every piece of furniture, every decoration, every comfort, all earned through my own relentless hard work. My family had given me nothing, and now I owed them nothing. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. For a moment, I braced myself, expecting it to be one of my parents. But when I opened it, it was from Dr. Gregory. "After tonight's revelations, I want you to know that my offer for the medical school project still stands. In fact, I'm more impressed than ever by what you've accomplished. Let's schedule that meeting for next week. You've earned this opportunity." I smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile, and typed back a response, confirming my availability. The meeting with my parents and their lawyer happened 3 days later in Marcus's office. I sat beside Marcus on one side of the polished conference table, resolute. My parents, Cassandra, and their attorney sat grimly on the other. The tension in that room was so thick you could almost taste it. Their lawyer, an older man named Donald, tried to seize control immediately. "My clients are willing to discuss a settlement regarding the trust fund, but they want assurances that this matter will remain private." Marcus didn't even blink. His voice was calm, cutting. "Your clients attempted to defraud my client out of money that legally belongs to her. They have no leverage here. We are not negotiating. We are informing them of what will happen." He slid copies of documents across the table. "These are the terms. First, you will provide complete access to the trust fund established by Athena's grandmother. Second, you will sign a legal document stating you have no claim to that money, now or ever. Third, you will cease all contact with Athena unless she initiates it. Fourth, you will immediately stop using her name, her success, or any reference to her in your social or professional circles." My father started to speak, but Marcus held up a firm hand. "I'm not finished. If you fail to comply with any of these terms, we will pursue criminal fraud charges. We will also provide copies of the recording and witness statements from the graduation party to your colleagues, friends, and business associates. The choice is yours." Donald looked at the documents, then at my parents. My mother was openly weeping now, real tears streaming down her face, finally unchecked. My father looked utterly defeated. Cassandra stared fixedly at the table, refusing to meet my eyes. This is extortion," Donald said weakly. "No," Marcus corrected him, his voice unwavering. "This is justice. Your clients can sign these papers and move on with their lives, minus the money they tried to steal and the daughter they tried to exploit. Or they can refuse, and we'll make sure everyone knows exactly what they did. Their reputation will be destroyed, and they'll still lose the trust fund case in court. This way, at least, they can maintain some dignity." A long, suffocating silence filled the room. Finally, my father spoke, his voice hoarse. "How much is in the trust fund?" "That's none of your concern anymore," Marcus replied pointedly. "But for the record, it's enough that Athena will be quite comfortable. More than comfortable. Actually." My mother finally looked at me, really looked at me, her eyes pleading. "How can you do this to your own family? You stopped being my family 5 years ago. When you threw me out, I met her gaze steadily. I'm just making sure you can't hurt me anymore. We made mistakes," she said desperately, "but we're still your parents. Doesn't that mean anything?" "It used to," I said quietly, the words heavy with forgotten pain. "It used to mean everything. But you taught me that love is conditional, that I'm only worth caring about if I meet your standards. that my pain and struggles don't matter if they're inconvenient for you. You taught me those lessons very well. Cassandra finally spoke, her voice small, a fragile whisper. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said those things on the phone. You're not sorry you said them. I corrected, my voice cold. You're sorry I heard them and recorded them. There's a difference. Marcus tapped the documents on the table. We need an answer. Sign, or we proceed with public disclosure and legal action. Donald whispered something to my parents. They had a brief, heated discussion in low, angry tones. Finally, my father picked up the pen. This isn't over, he muttered as he scrawled his signature. Yes, it is, I replied, a profound sense of closure washing over me. This is exactly as over as it gets. One by one, they signed the documents. My mother, my father, even Cassandra, who had been listed as a secondary beneficiary in some of the original paperwork. Each signature felt like a colossal weight lifting from my shoulders. When it was done, Marcus collected the signed papers and made copies for everyone. You'll receive notification when the trust fund transfer is complete, he informed them. I expect that will happen within the week. My parents stood to leave. My mother paused at the door, looking back at me one last time. I hope you'll be happy, she said, and for a fleeting moment, she almost sounded sincere. I already am, I said, a genuine, quiet strength in my voice. I have been for a while now. I just had to learn to find it without you. They left, and I sat there in the sudden, echoing quiet of the conference room. Marcus smiled at me. How do you feel? Free, I said simply. For the first time in my life, I feel completely free. The trust fund transfer was completed 5 days later. The amount was substantial, far more than I'd ever expected. My grandmother, it turned out, had invested wisely, and the fund had grown significantly over the years. Combined with my thriving business income, I was genuinely wealthy now. But the money, though welcome, wasn't what truly mattered most. What mattered was that I had faced the people who had shattered me, and I had definitively refused to let them control my narrative anymore. I had exposed their lies, fiercely protected my own interests, and cut them out of my life permanently. The medical school contract came through the following week, exactly as Dr. Gregory had promised. He made a point of telling me the project was mine based purely on merit, not pity or drama. My agency's work spoke for itself. My parents? They never recovered their pristine reputation in their social circle. Word spread like wildfire about what had happened at Cassandra's graduation party. Their friends quickly distanced themselves, unwilling to be associated with people who had treated their own daughter so cruelly. My father's business suffered as partners quietly but decisively ended their relationships with him. My mother withdrew from her social clubs, unable to face the inevitable judgment. Cassandra completed her medical degree, but struggled immensely to find a good residency placement. The recordings and witness statements had, predictably, made their way through the medical community, and her ethics were severely questioned. She eventually moved to another state, desperately trying to start fresh where no one knew her story. They had built their entire lives on appearances and reputation, and when those crumbled, they had absolutely nothing left to stand on. As for me, 6 months later, I stood in my expanded, bustling office space, watching my team work on projects that would have seemed utterly impossible just a year ago. The success felt profoundly real now, earned, unshakable. I had learned a fundamental truth. You don't need your family's approval to build a meaningful life. Sometimes, the only family you truly deserve is the one you create for yourself. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't destruction at all. It's simply becoming so successful, so happy, so incredibly free that their opinions no longer matter. I walked away from them at that graduation party, and I haven't looked back since. That, right there, was my real win. I'm curious, what would you have done if you were in my shoes at that party? Let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear your thoughts.